Hello, everyone. I am Wendy with Winds of Change Ministries, and today I have to retract something that I said earlier. I was going to share the Ten Commandments, and oops, I only covered 9 of them. I missed one of the most important ones, which is keeping the Sabbath holy. All right. And the Sabbath is the seventh day of creation. God said that was the day that he rested. And he told the children of Israel that he wanted them to keep it holy. Okay. So no servile work on that day. All right. And anyway, so uh, why? Well, he wanted an emphasis on that day so that we would understand what it meant. It meant having rest and peace. Okay. Now, throughout the Bible, there is hidden messages on how to interpret what does it mean this seventh day. Okay, and it goes very, very deep. I'm not going to cover all in this 40 Days of Manna. You can find out more information in my book, God's Master Plan for Salvation. Okay. But when you look at in the book of Revelation, for example, it mentions the seven seals, the seven trumpets, the seven thunders, and the seven vials or bowls. All right. Now, to open those seven seals are like opening the seven portals within our body, these energy centers that are in our body. A lot of us have blocked chakras, closed seals, all right? And God wants us to open up all of them. And all of these seals must be opened with a lot of trials and tribulations, which the book of Revelation alludes to. Okay? They don't open up open sesame, okay? They are opened through trials and tribulation, and it helps awaken us. It helps it helps open our consciousness, okay? That's the purpose of it. Through trials and tribulations, faith in God, our consciousness is opened. All right. And so the seventh seal or chakra is our crown chakra. All right. It goes throughout our body. Well, not throughout the entire body, from the torso up, okay, to the crown. Now, so yes, keep the seventh holy. There is a reason for that, okay? Now, and also that seventh holy, the chakra, the crown chakra, it is related to being separate, okay? So it is like not really being in the body or associated with the spine. Okay, it is separate. Okay, so let's go into today's lesson. I told you that I was going to talk about the hidden meaning of that king snake that ate up all the other snakes, right? Well, as God led the children of Israel through the wilderness for 40 years, they were constantly complaining. All right, constantly complaining about this and that and blah, blah, blah. Don't we do that? Aren't we guilty of that? So don't point fingers. We're all guilty of that, okay? I complain sometimes and to God. But anyway, this is our wilderness period as we learn to trust God, all right? To trust Him. So, but God, he got tired one day, and he was going to teach these children a lesson, and he sent the fiery serpents after them. Okay, now people who got bit by the fiery serpents, they died, and many of them became sick and were dying. So Moshe went to the Most High and asked for a solution. And so God told Moses to make a brazen serpent and lift it up on a pole. All right. Now that snake that is lifted up on the pole, number one, represents Yahushua, Jesus. Okay, who was lifted up. All right. Now God told them to look upon that snake and they would be saved. Now, he never said worship them. He said look upon it. All right? So, in other words, to reflect, what does this symbolize? Well, in the Garden of Eden, it was the snake that that brought sin upon us, guilt and shame, okay, upon humanity. And the snake was told that it had to crawl on its belly. But salvation happens when we raise that snake up. That snake represents, symbolically, represents us. We have we have our spine, right, and that represents the body of the snake, okay, and then we have our reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is comprised of the brainstem and the ganglia something, okay? The I don't know. It's a weird name, and I don't have it right in front of me. But it's that part in the center of the brain that is like a cavity. It's like a walnut in the center of your brain. It's a little bit bigger than the walnut, but anyway, and it is that area in the center of the brain that is part of your reptilian brain as well. And it is very important because a lot of magical things happen in that part of the brain. All right, because it produces glands and the glands, but the pineal gland and the pituitary gland are associated with that part of the brain, and it produces things in your cerebral spinal cerebral spinal fluid. Anyway, that the water that flows up and down, okay, and it helps with our bodies. It helps with our body, okay, to be healthy. Cerebrospinal fluid. All right. You know, these aren't words I say every day, but regardless. So yes, we have a serpent, a reptile within us, okay? And that type of a brain is in snakes, and it's in pretty much all animals. I remember dissecting a crayfish when I was in school, and they had the ganglia blah blah. Okay, they had it too. So anyway, and basically that was like the only brain they had. All right, so it's a very primitive brain. So the snake, what does this mean? God wanted him to put the brazen snake up on the pole. Yes, that represents us. It also, the king snake represents Jesus, the king. Okay, this is a deep meaning. Okay, I'm trying to expand your consciousness to understand these things. The symbolism of it. So in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden because of guilt and shame. They were ashamed because they were disobedient to God's commandments and because they recognized that they were naked. Okay, so they had guilt and shame that kicked them out of the garden. How? And the snake was told that it had to slither on its belly, right? But to be saved, we have to raise that snake up. In the Bible, the word upright and righteous, okay, they mean the same thing. All right, so to be lifted up and to be righteous, it's the same Hebrew word. And do you think it's a coincidence that has to do with the right hand? No, because that's the masculine energy. All right, that's the masculine side. But it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky because really it's the left brain that controls the right side of the body. So, anyway, but these words are all kind of connected, all right? And so that just goes to show that, you know, a woman can control her man. Anyway, I'm just saying. Um, so, yeah, the snake has to be lifted up. We have to do things to get rid of our guilt and shame. Now, this Christ consciousness idea has got a lot of people thinking that they are above God and God's rules, okay, and that everything in the Bible is just allegory. They cherry pick. I want this, and I want this, and I want that, and forget the rest of that. That doesn't mean anything to me. Nope, nope, nope. We are in a new era, all right? Because maybe that might have flown in the old era, with you know, where the blood of Jesus made atonement for your sin. But we are entering a new era, and people who want to ascend, be raptured, they must obey the commandments of God, the old commandments, okay, the guidelines of God. It's a requirement. All right, and benefits come from doing so. A lot of people, they're like, I don't want to honor the Sabbath. What is the sense in that? And yet they do not realize that our body needs rest. Okay? God gave that as a day of rest to help our body heal itself. And God will bless those who are obedient to Him. Now, in the book of Matthew, I believe it's chapter 24, 25, somewhere around there, the people were asking Jesus, Yahushua, what would be some signs of the end of the world? Okay? The end of the generation, that their generation. Okay? And one of the things that Jesus said was that there was going to be many who claimed to come in His name, saying that they are the Christ. And that is happening right now. All right? That's happening. There's a lot of people, as their consciousness awakens, there are many who are having, coming to realization that we are one with Christ. All right? And they are claiming to be Christ, to be anointed. But they are not truly anointed by God. This is just one of the signs, and we are living in those days. There's another passage in the Bible where Jesus said that that people would say, you know, there would be gnashing of teeth, and people would say, but I prophesied in your name, and I did this and I did that, and He said, I don't know you. I don't know you. There are many people who claim to be servants of Jesus, and they don't even really know Him. Why? Because Jesus said, He was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And He said to love the Lord your God with all your mind, body, and soul. And to honor or to love your neighbor as yourself. And upon these, everything else remains. Why? Because if you love your neighbor, you're not going to rob them. You're not going to cheat on, steal their wife. You're not going to have adultery. You're not going to lie. Okay? So, or, you know, all those other things. All right? So that is the loving your neighbor part. And to love the Lord your God with all your heart, well, you're going to honor the divine Father and Mother. You're going to not take His name for nothing, all right, because He does exist. You're going to honor the Sabbath. You're not going to raise yourself up as your own idol. See, I am one with God. What does that mean? I know His will and I try to follow it the best I can. Okay, I do not oppose the will of God. All right, so I do not act in rebellion, and there are many who do act in rebellion against God. All right, and it's just a natural part of it. All right, this is your ego, and that guy must fall. All right, this is the false prophet within ourselves. Okay, this is our beastly carnal nature that wants to rebel against God, and God is to ascend. That guy, that ego, must descend. All right. Now, some people might say I have a strong ego. I do, because I know God's will and I stand on it firmly. Okay, but my carnal nature, I don't allow my carnal nature to rule over me. All right. My snake doesn't slither on its belly. It's been risen up. All right. It is righteous. It is upright. That snake symbolizes an aspect of ourselves. And to be saved, we must raise it up. All right. We must become our own Jesus, our own sacrifice. All right. I know those are kind of complex ideas. I hear the sirens in the background. Let's just say that this is a serious topic, okay? And something that we should all take to heart. All right, that's going to be it for this video. My name is Wendy, and we're all living in the winds of change.